Hallelujah. 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 The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. Jesus said to his disciples, "You have heard that it was said, 'You shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy.' But I say to you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, that you may be children of your heavenly Father. For he makes his sun rise on the bad and the good, and causes rain to fall on the just and the unjust. For if you love those who love you, what recompense will you have? Do not the tax collectors do the same? And if you greet your brothers only, what is unusual about that? Do not the pagans do the same? So be perfect, just as your heavenly Father is perfect." The Gospel of the Lord. Be perfect, just as your heavenly Father is perfect. What does this mean? Jesus' words. Right? In context, Jesus is talking about loving your enemies and having goodwill to all. Right? And there's an important theological truth that is being understood here. Right? When we talk about God, we have to understand that God does not change. So in the Bible, sometimes it sounds like God, even though he's a person, it makes it sound like he has emotions, right? Like sometimes he's jealous, sometimes he's angry, right? Sometimes he's loving, sometimes he's merciful, sometimes he's vengeful. Right? And so sometimes people might see that in the scriptures, and it makes God seem like he changes. Right? Or there's also some strange passages like in the book of Exodus when it says that God hardens Pharaoh's heart, right? What exactly does that mean? It doesn't seem like a very good thing for God to do, right? In the Bible, as with any piece of literature, right, there's a literary device called personification, right? But it doesn't necessarily mean it literally, right? It's not as if God is literally upset or literally sad or literally vengeful. But in relation to us, how we experience God, right, we can experience as anger or mercy or vengeance. But God is not the one who changes. We are the ones who change. St. Augustine, when he commented on the passage about Pharaoh, about having his heart hardened, he said that the same sun that melts the wax of the heart of a sinner, right, is the same sun that hardens the clay of those who are closed off, like Pharaoh was. It wasn't so much that God was hardening Pharaoh's heart as much as Pharaoh was closed off, and so encountering God, right, he became hardened. God does not change. He has the same fundamental perspective towards us, no matter what we do. Even when it comes to the devil and demons, right? God created them, and so he still has the same perspective towards them that he's always had. He loves them. People who are in hell, it is not as if God disowns them. He still loves them. They close themselves off. In Dante's Inferno, right, he famously describes the devil as being ice solid, completely cold and hardened, closed off. And so when Jesus says in the Sermon on the Mount, he says, "Be perfect just as your heavenly Father is perfect," part of what he's saying is not simply that we need to be perfect as in, we can't ever sin. What he's saying is that the attitude and actions of others should not change our fundamental perspective towards them, just as God does not change his fundamental perspective towards them. We need to imitate that stability, that perseverance, that even in the face of trial or injustice, we remain the same. We stand unmoved with the same fundamental perspective of goodwill towards all.